Welcome, welcome. Hello, whoever's watching this. Hi, YouTube. Hi, chat. Anybody that's watching this. This is I'm accompanied by the legendary YouTuber streamer himself.
I ain't no legend, but what I am is I'm on top of that.
Yeah, it's Flex Anya, and we're gonna be watching. What are we watching today, Flex?
SCP-1562, the year Nags was born.
The Carnivorous Tunnel Slide. Let's get into it.
An empty bottle shatters against the ground, sending shards of glass across the tarmac. The teens, fueled by adrenaline and cheap booze, are having a wild night, and it's just getting started. After getting booted from the local arcade for causing a scene and grabbing some greasy budget burritos from a local Mexican takeout joint, their journey led them here, the local park. For the two high school seniors, the playground equipment was the perfect canvas for their artistic vision.
Absolutely.
They laughed as they planned the graffiti and lewd sketches that would cover the slides and monkey bars by dawn. But before any of that can happen, a wave of childhood nostalgia washes over them. Why not go on some of the rides, for old time's sake? It's not like anybody would ever know what they did here tonight. And they're right, in the worst way possible. Little do they know, something extremely dangerous is lurking. Something that wants to cause them terrible, terrible harm, in a way that, even after it happens, they'll never truly understand. By morning, as the first rays of sunlight glint off the dew-soaked grass, it becomes clear the teens never made it home. Their panicked parents call the police and register their concern. This isn't like them. They never stay out this long. The search begins. Calls go out to local radio shows and TV stations. Concerned citizens staple missing posters to telephone poles. By evening, the streets and nearby woods are filled with volunteers, walking in lines, clutching flashlights, calling out names into the approaching darkness. The police bring in the usual suspects. Locals with a criminal history that indicate they might be a danger to local teenagers, but it doesn't turn up any meaningful evidence. Meanwhile, halfway across town, a cleaner employed by the local council sweeps up the glass from the broken whiskey bottle at the playground. As the mother watches the cleaner dump the broken glass into a garbage bag, her little boy is playing on the jungle gym with his friends. The mother's hand snakes towards her pocket, then stops. She fights the urge to reach for the pack of smokes, worrying what the other mothers will think of her if she does. It's been a stressful month, the latest of many. She doesn't have time to worry about anything else. Hell, she hasn't even heard about the missing teens. Mommy, look how high I can climb! She forces a smile as she watches her boy reach the top of the ropes. That smile almost becomes genuine when she sees how happy her son looks. And then her phone starts to ring. It's him. Again. Her husband, soon to be ex-husband, if he'll ever actually accept the divorce papers. She sighs and walks away from the playground for a moment. She doesn't want their son to hear them having another long-distance shouting match. When the humiliation ritual is over, she returns to the playground. Only something's wrong. She notices it immediately. Her son isn't there. She feels the panic pierce her chest in that instant, but tries to keep her composure. She asks one of the other mothers what happened, and they seem just as confused as her. I think he just went down the slide, one of them says. I wasn't looking, I'm sorry, says the other. The fear is impossible to suppress now. The mother screams her child's name, but there's no response. She climbs up the wooden structure and looks down the shaft of the metal tube slide. It's empty. Her voice echoes down as she calls the name again and again. Her horrified screaming just pours out the other side. Soon enough, one mother's panic infects the entire town. 3 missing people in 12 hours? 2 teens, 1 child? Could there be a kidnapper on the loose? It doesn't take the papers long to start running with it. Police search every inch of the playground, the fields beyond it, and even the nearby forest. But they don't find anything. The mother gives her statement to the police, and soon after, her estranged husband is also brought in for questioning. It soon goes from local news to national syndication. Extra police are soon sent in from external departments to widen the search, as phones within tens of miles of the incident give the frightening buzz of Amber Alerts. The first 24-hour window is the most important, but as the hours draw on, the hopes start to dwindle, and the local police precinct is starting to catch flack for their ineptitude. One person who isn't getting that same blowback is the mother. Soon enough, she's America's favorite terrified mother. Her email inbox is full of tabloid newspapers and
so
online
real.
outlets begging for exclusives.
Imagine
They
that.
want to know how she's
I'd be
feeling right
annoyed
now.
as hell.
Does she have any theories as to what happened? Is there anything she'd like to say to the man who presumably has her son locked up in some basement compound? The mother is part of every search party, every night. She tromps through the undergrowth, shouting her son's name. But soon, the tone of the search starts to change. Police and search parties stop walking through forests and knocking on doors. Instead, they start trawling riverbeds and digging through gravel pits. Nobody says it, but the subtext is clear. They're not looking for a little boy anymore. They're looking for his body. Little by little, even the most ardent supporters start to peel away. It's not exciting anymore. It's grim and depressing. But even that isn't nearly as awful as what's about to happen.
Oh, hell.
Slowly, at first, and then with all the speed and intensity of an avalanche, the media and then the public begins to turn on her. The headlines go from being kind and sympathetic to indifferent description of just how long the fruitless search has gone on, to active cruelty. Doesn't the mother seem like she's taking all of this too well? Doesn't she seem a little suspicious? The headlines are the lit match thrown into the tinderbox. The conspiracy theories start flying online. Internet sleuths intent on getting to the bottom of this, to finding a more believable angle. They unpack the details of the case in the most
Exactly.
unfavorable light imaginable. Did she smile during that press conference? There must be some kind of ulterior motive here. There must be some secret underneath the surface.
It is
And
getting
as
real
you'll find
dark
out
real
later,
fast, bro.
there is. Just not the one anyone here would expect. The mother is still getting hundreds and sometimes thousands of messages every day, but the tone of these messages has changed with the media's depiction. I know what you did, you monster. You can't keep getting away with this. How can you live with yourself, killing your own little boy? Did you dig a big hole for him, lady? I'm gonna dig a bigger one for you. But the messages aren't nearly as chilling as the maniacs who show up at her house. It starts with shadows, figures moving through the bushes at night, barely visible in the glow of the porch light. Then come the sounds, the dull thud of rocks against the siding, the occasional crash of something heavier smashing against a window. In one instance, someone even shot at the facade. When the police came over to investigate, she sensed an undertone of, "Everything always happens to you, doesn't it?" underneath the sympathetic smiles. Her car has been ruined by horrific graffiti multiple times. The tires slashed, the windows cracked, the doors keyed. Every single way that a person can suffer an indignity, short of physical violence, she seems to be suffering it. She even sees YouTubers and podcasters hiding in their cars, filming her as she takes out the garbage for B-roll in their documentaries about her perceived wrongdoings. She cries too much. She doesn't cry enough. Don't her eyes look like a murderer's eyes? But she'll even take all the pain that comes with being awake
Oh, flap.
over the horrors that invade her dreams. Well, it's only ever one dream, actually. She's there on the day that her boy went missing, standing with the other moms at the edge of the playground,
I'm so
watching her little
stunned.
boy. Except in the dream, nobody has a face. They're all blank and smooth, with voices that sound like muffled nonsense. Her son calls out to her, and then, at the exact same time that it did in real life, her phone starts to ring. It's her husband again, her soon-to-be ex-husband. As though trapped by the certainty of the past, she steps away and answers the phone, moving liquid slow. Her husband's voice comes through the microphone next to her ear in an eerie monotone. "Why aren't you watching our boy?" She turns and sees him gone. Not just him, but everyone, as though she's completely alone in the world. She dashes over in a panic, though to her, that dash is in torturous slow motion. The words of the other mom ring with haunting clarity in her ears. "I think he just went down the slide." In a blur of panic, she scrambles into the slide, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Her hands slip on the smooth plastic, her knees banging against the sides as she crawls forward. But this time, she doesn't see the faint light of the other side, just an all-consuming darkness yawning before her, pulling her in like a void. She doesn't stop to think. That's when she hears it. "Mommy!" His voice. It's faint, but unmistakable. She needs to keep going, but inside, the slide feels like a desperate and terrible infinity. Endless loops in cold, dark metal. Every time she feels like she's getting close to seeing her son again, he gets just a little further away. Then, everything slips out of reach. She bolts upright in bed, gasping for air, her nightshirt clinging to her sweat-soaked skin. The slide. She knows she has to go back. It's not just a dream. It's something more. A pull she can't explain. The slide. She has to
I
go
would not
back.
trust that slide.
to
I
the
would go to a
slide.
therapist. Don't do it.
And that's what she does. That night, she goes back to the playground, still cordoned off with police tape fluttering in the breeze.
Always leave me
She ducks
speechless.
under the cordon, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. She stands at the base of the slide, staring up at its hollow, gaping entrance. Her breath catches as she takes the first step, her fingers curling tightly around the metal rungs. They feel cold in the damp night air. She pauses at the top, and then summoning every ounce of courage, she throws herself forward, face first, her arms pinned tightly at her sides. The world blurs as she hurtles downward, the slide pulling her in faster than it ever should. And then, she's somewhere else. The throat of a deep cave, in complete darkness. The walls and ceiling close in tightly around her, the hard rock pressing against her body. She can't move, can't even wriggle her arms loose. She screams into the void, but the sound feels swallowed, crushed by the suffocating darkness. There's no echo, no sense of space beyond the tiny
This
prison
would be
she's trapped
such a
in.
nightmare for me.
She now knows what happened to her son.
I'm not
She just
claustrophobic.
can't save him, or herself.
I'm not
To
claustrophobic,
someone
but I still have
claustrophobic,
a claustrophobic.
what I just described is probably worse than an eternity in hell, but that's simply par for the course when it comes to SCP-1562, also known as the Carnivorous Slide. An anomaly where the questions it raises are every bit as unsettling as the few answers we have regarding its nature. To the untrained eye, there's nothing amiss about this particular anomaly. It's a metal tube slide, 11 feet long, 3.4 meters, and 7 feet high, 2.2 meters, part of an otherwise completely non-anomalous playground in a location that, for your own safety, will remain undisclosed. There's a good chance that even if you use the slide, you may not fall victim to its anomalous effects. That's because these effects are only activated when someone uses the slide in a very particular way. Namely, sliding down it on their stomach, face first, with their arms at their sides. When this condition is satisfied, the victim will disappear at some point during the slide, vanishing without a trace. To this day, despite the Foundation's best
Oh,
attempts to
hell no.
capture the phenomenon, it has never been directly
Easy,
observed.
I would survive that.
I cannot stress enough that this is very much a one-way trip, too. Nobody who has gone down the slide and disappeared has ever been recovered. Even when the Foundation has sent D-Class personnel down the slide with a tether attached to their bodies, the tether has been mysteriously cut when the person disappeared. All of this begs the unsettling question,
Oh, hell no.
where are all these people going? The best that the Foundation can estimate on this is that it's an extra-dimensional space, which has largely been described as an extremely cramped, cave-like environment where light ceased to work and mobility is extremely limited. Due to the position that victims are in when the anomalous effect takes place, they're rarely even able to move their arms. While here, beyond even experiencing the natural fear one would logically feel in this situation, they feel the sudden onset of panic and paranoia as their situation deteriorates. There have only ever been
Man.
2 Foundation experiments conducted on SCP-1562
I
before
would not
testing
wanna
was
be
suspended
eaten like that.
indefinitely. In the first,
I feel
a
like I'd
member
be
of D-Class personnel was tethered and sent down the slide, at which point he promptly disappeared, severing the tether. However, the long-range communication device left with the D-Class still worked. From his new location, he was able to describe not only the dark and cramped locale, but something wedged in the tunnel in front of him. He described a tiny shoe, like that of a child, laying in the tunnel in front of him. He also heard a voice talking and telling him to stop crying, even though he wasn't. When asked to describe his situation, he said, "I'm still headfirst on my stomach and my body's at an angle, but I'm in some sort of small tunnel and I'm stuck. I'm completely surrounded by rock or dirt on all sides. I don't have enough room to raise my head or move my arms, and I can't move forward. I really want to get out of here now."
This is making me
Of course,
anxious
there was
as
no
hell.
way for the Foundation researchers to get him out. Instead, they asked him about the other person who seemed to be trapped in there with him. The D-Class said, He just kept asking where he was, and I told him I didn't know. But I don't think he was really talking to me because he didn't respond to my voice, and he told me to stop crying when I was actually sort of calm." They then asked him whether the other person seemed to be moving. "I don't think so. He started crying and asking for his mommy. Then he finally stopped, and shortly after that, you contacted me again. Please get me out now. Please hurry, my chest just..." Communication cut at this point, much to the distress of everyone involved. In response to this incident, another test was approved, this time using a member of D-Class
so
personnel
terrified.
who has a smaller stature. The logic being that a thinner man might be more mobile in the enclosed space of SCP-1562's anomalous area, allowing for further exploration than the previous test subject. However, despite the difference in size, this D-Class seemed just as trapped and enclosed as the first. He reported the same disappearance of all light, the same shortness of breath, the same dirt and rock, the same tiny shoe just in front of his head. But then he started hearing a voice, one very familiar to the Foundation researchers, echoing from the dark. It was the voice of the previous D-Class. And it wasn't just his voice. He was saying everything that he'd said during the previous test at exactly the timings that he'd said it, as though someone was playing back a recording. Soon after, the voice stopped. The second D-Class's transmission was cut not long after, his last recorded words being, "Oh, thank God for that. I was starting to think that..." He was never heard from again. In light of this development, the lead researcher in the case, Dr. Carver, suspended all testing. To do any more would simply repeat the same result and sacrifice more lives to the Carnivorous slide. These days, the slide is quarantined in Testing Lab 46-V in Site 24,
How the
kept
hell
away
did they
from the
move
public
it?
and from dangerously curious Foundation researchers who might repeat certain old mistakes.
Picking it up.
When
Yeah.
you've done this job for long enough,
bet
you
I can
realize
fight
that sometimes not having an answer at all is kinder than knowing the awful truth beneath it all. Check out the Dr.BOB Patreon and become a junior researcher
Oh,
today.
hell.
Now go and watch another entry from the files of
I
Dr.
am
Bob, like
terrified.
SCP-150, Body-Stealing Parasite, Ship of
I
Theseus.
survived that one. I'm not scared.
But thank you very much for watching chat, YouTube. You're all cute. I love Mercy, you all.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And like and subscribe and come watch me on Twitch. I am live at 2 p.m. most of
What
the
the
time.
fuck is that furry on the middle right?
Where? I don't see a furry. Oh.
The girl with the blunt and the furry.
Oh. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
What the hell is that? I'm live on Twitch a lot of the time. I'm mostly a streamer. I'm live on Twitch at 2 p.m. EST, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and that's about it. I'll see you guys in next video if I make another one anytime soon. Bye!